Teruvan Saranai. Let's start another episode about the life, the reality. In our last sermon, we were talking about the ego and the process of the ego. And I think we identified that that is the most harmful thing in the world, but everyone loves it, everyone wants it, everyone wants to feed it, to maintain it, and not only people, but also animals. Every sentient being want to maintain it. But it's very dangerous. But no one knows. If someone knows about it, they will try to eradicate that. They will try to cease the process. Therefore, actually we need to know about the ego. We need to know how harmful the ego is. Otherwise we will feed it and let it kill us. Let it destroy us. Let it destroy our life. Then we won't be able to feel the life. Which means the original state of your mind. It's the most precious thing you ever got. If you believe in God, you got that from God. If you believe in karma, you got it from karma. That's the mind. But the problem is, due to ignorance and attachment, we can't feel our own mind. Can you imagine how poor we are and how destitute we are? You can act as a king, but you can't feel your own mind. That's terrible, essentially. That's how destitute we are. That's why we need to take the refuge in the Noble Triple Gem. We need to take the refuge. One day you will realize that. One day you will realize that you missed everything. You completely lost. You will have money. You will have a good education, certificates, achievements. But in your last breath, you will realize that you had lost everything. Because you couldn't even feel yourself. Your true self. You were possessed. The mind was possessed. Therefore, you only felt vexation. Therefore, you wanted to do something to come out of vexation. Therefore, you did. That was your life. You wanted to achieve things, then you achieved it. Again, you have another, or you got another desire, then you achieved it. Then you got another desire, then again you achieved it. That's your life. Perhaps you think that other than that, what can we do? Because that's what you have seen, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I had seen. I thought that life is achieving our goals and dreams. Therefore, if someone doesn't have a dream, actually he is not a human being anymore. That's how people believe. If you are a human being, you should have goals and dreams. You should achieve your dreams. Nothing wrong with dreams or having a dream. You should have a dream. That's why you had a dream, and you had dreams, many dreams, and you have dreams, and you will have if you won't understand this. Life is not only about dreams, ladies and gentlemen. You need to understand your life. You need to understand yourself. You need to understand the purpose of your life. You got a fantastic life, but you need to understand it. If you don't understand that, you have to live in vexation. You have to live in suffering all the time. No one is there to save you, because you have created that. You have created the trap, and you are entrapped. The problem is you have created the trap, and you are stuck in there. That's why if I ask you to stop all these things, right, what you do right now, and come to us, we will give you rest. Will you? The problem is, you might have doubts. How can we sacrifice our life? But we ask you to come to enjoy your life. Just to enjoy your life. We will feed you. Can you do that? We will feed you, we will look after you. You have enough money in your bank account to live, but to fulfill all of your dreams, you can't even think about it, because that's not enough. Therefore, you have to work hard. You have to work hard to fulfill your all dreams, ladies and gentlemen, because that's endless. Because right now you have a dream, and tomorrow when you talk to another person, or when you watch a movie, or when you read a book, you will have another dream. You will have another desire. With the desire, you will be vexed. Then you need to work out your salvation. When you work out your salvation, you might think, not salvation, sorry. Actually, that can be your salvation for the time being. You need to come out of vexation. To come out of vexation, you need to work out your dreams. That's why we always move forward. That's why we all move forward. But we think that we move forward. Actually, we don't move forward, ladies and gentlemen. We move backward. Because of that, you had to live in the past. Because you got a dream in the past, and now you are going to achieve that. Therefore, you miss the present. You miss the present means you miss the life. Because your mind is vexed, because you have a dream. You have a desire. Therefore, the mind is vexed. Right now, you can listen to me, but if the mind is vexed, you can't understand what I say. When you smell something, you can't understand what you smell, because your mind is vexed, because your mind lives in the past. Because the mind is vexed. The mind is vexed due to a desire. It happened in the past, but the mind is stuck in the past now. That's why people want to achieve their dreams so badly. Because they want to experience the present, ladies and gentlemen, but vexation doesn't allow. When the mind is vexed, you can't be fully present. Which means the mind exists in the present only. There is no such thing as the past and the future, and the present as well. But I use the present to understand it easier. The present means when something happens according to the theory of cause and effect. That is called present, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not talking about the time. I will use the word the present. But that means when causes come together, an effect is created. That is the present. That is the only time that exists. It happened in the past. Therefore, we think that the past exists. In the past means it happened before. Causes came together. An effect was created. It happened before this incident. Therefore, we think that that's our past, because we live in the past, ladies and gentlemen. We think that we are beings. Therefore, we have the past, the present, and the future. The ego has that, not the mind. The mind is brand new. The mind is brand new. It is created right now. If you can hear the sound, the mind is created. That's the mind, ladies and gentlemen. If you think about the sound, that's the mind. You can think. You can hear. That's the mind. You can see. That's the mind. And can you see your past? Can you remember maybe an hour ago you came to the monastery and you saw something? Can you see it again, please? Can you? Can you see it? No. That means you can't live in the past, ladies and gentlemen. The present exists. Only the present exists. If you want to see it, you need to see it right now. But the problem is, when the ego is created, you have to live in the past. When the ego is created, the ego has its wantings. The mind doesn't have any wantings, ladies and gentlemen, because the mind is an effect. If something is an effect, it doesn't have any wantings, because it can't have any wanting. Because it's an effect. When causes come together, and that effect is created. That's the only thing that occurs. Therefore, it can't be in the past. Therefore, it can't be in the future, and therefore, it can't have any wanting. But the ego has wantings, because the ego lives throughout the time. That's why you can feel that you have been living, and you will live until you die. You lived. You can say that you are 40 years old. The mind says that, ladies and gentlemen, it's unbelievable. The mind says that it is 40 years old, but you know that the mind is created right now. When I make this vibration, you can hear a sound. That sound is your mind, ladies and gentlemen. That perceiving the sound is your mind. That means the mind is created right now. But how can it be 40 years old then? The ego. The ego is 40 years old. That's why I told you, the ego has to live throughout the time. Therefore, the ego has its past, the present, and the future. The ego has its own wantings. Then when it has a wanting, then the mind is vexed. Then after that, it has to achieve its goals. That means, in the present, it has to worry about its past. Perhaps you have a dream right now. Perhaps many dreams. Therefore, now you need to achieve that, because it's a dream. Because of that, the mind is vexed. Therefore, you need to figure out the way. You need to do something. You need to assist. You need to talk to someone. You need to read books. Because the mind is vexed. Now you try to find a path to come out of vexation. When you come out of vexation, then you will feel pleasure, as well as perhaps you will achieve your goal. And you will be happy. But the problem is, to achieve that goal, you lost your life. Something is created to the world. A big mansion is created. Someone can live there. An expensive car is produced. But you lost your life. Perhaps you can be happy by thinking that I have achieved my goals, my dreams. By doing so, you lost your life. And you lost your life purpose. Because if you don't know the purpose of your life, and if you use your life to achieve other things, then you won't have enough time to fulfill your life purpose. That's why we need to talk about this, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I told you that this is the most dangerous thing in the world, because it is deceitful. Your mind is deceived. Your mind is deceived due to ignorance. The mind can't understand, because the mind is ignorant. Therefore it thinks that ego is the life. The mind thinks that ego is the life, but the problem is, the mind can't identify itself, ladies and gentlemen. It's like you can't identify yourself. You go to a mirror, but you can't identify yourself. How hard it would be. The mind can't identify itself. Therefore the mind thinks that it is ego. The mind thinks that it exists throughout the time. The mind thinks that it has its own wantings. The mind thinks that it is vexed. Actually the mind is vexed, but due to the ego, not due to itself. Not due to it. Therefore we need to help the mind. I want you to help your mind. If you can help your mind, then you will achieve happiness. You will experience happiness. You will experience vex-free life, vex-free mind. That's why we gather here. Therefore we need to identify the process of the ego. Then we need to identify the process of wanting. There are two processes. The ego is created, after that the egoistic mind needs a wanting to live. Because when the ego is created, the ego needs to be superior. That's the other problem, ladies and gentlemen. The ego needs to be superior. That's why the ego wants to perceive things so badly. It needs to perceive things, it needs to hear, it needs to see. It needs to perceive things. There are 6 ways. If it has 10 ways or 20 ways, then it will do that, because it needs knowledge. You always try to gather knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, because when you are knowledgeable, you can be superior. Then you can be a teacher. You can be a teacher to someone. You can advise someone. You always like to advise people. You like to advise people because you feel superior. Perhaps you don't want to get advised, but you like to advise. Just put these things into your life, then you will realize that. We all know that we are not insulting each other. Therefore, let's put this into our life. Each time when you try to advise someone, from our childhood, when we were so good at maths, we wanted to teach someone. Can you remember that? Then we thought that it's a good quality. Of course, it's a good quality, but someone who didn't need it, but we wanted to teach them. We want to teach them and be superior. That feeling is so good when you teach someone or when you help someone. Can you feel that? We all have that feeling, ladies and gentlemen. We wanted to help our grandmother, who is needy. Actually, we like the needy. We want the needy live in the world. Then we can be happy. That is called good. But it's not great. It's not great, ladies and gentlemen. We need to achieve great things. Everyone can achieve good things. Sometimes people are good, and sometimes they are bad. But rarely they can be great. To be great, they should follow the Buddha. They should follow the Dhamma. They should know the Dhamma. They should know the reality. Dhamma means the reality, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. Dhamma is the reality. Reality about yourself, reality about nature, reality about the universe. That's the only thing we need to know. If we know that, then we know about us, we know about the mind, we know about the body, we know about the universe, we know about nature. Then we can obey nature, we can obey the universe, all the laws, and we will be happy. But right now we have our wantings, therefore we need to live according to our wantings. But nature never allows us to do that. Nature is nature, ladies and gentlemen. We are also nature. We can't say that we are part of nature. Actually, we are nature. But if we don't understand nature, then we have to achieve our dreams. But all the dreams are completely different to natural rules. Nature has its own rules. Nature has its own characteristics. If we don't know those characteristics, then we will create our wantings, we will create our dreams against it. Then we will go against nature, we will go against ourselves. How can we be happy if we can't obey nature? The Dhamma is for, or Dhamma is to obey nature, ladies and gentlemen. To obey nature, you have to kill yourself. I'm going to give you a knife. You have to kill yourself. Jesus Christ once said, you need to lose yourself to find yourself. What a saying. You need to lose yourself to find yourself. Are you ready to lose yourself, ladies and gentlemen? The problem is you are not ready. You are not ready. The mind is ready, but the problem is the ego is not ready to lose itself because it has been making this, it has been building this for the years. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. The years. It has been building it. The ego. The mind thinks that is the identity. But that's not the identity of the mind, ladies and gentlemen. You should be very happy because you have a mind, but you can't be happy because you have ego. The mind is precious. The ego is disastrous. If you have something disastrous, then you can't be happy with what you have. But the mind is precious. Therefore, we need to keep the mind and destroy the ego. But will it allow us to do it? I ask you to lose yourself. Can you do that, please? Lose yourself, please. That means, can you give up everything? And again, Jesus Christ once said, if you want to be perfect, you have to leave everything behind and come and join with me. Then come and join me. Just imagine that. Can you do that? Leave everything behind. Leave everything behind. Because if you want to be perfect, now you have something. Perhaps you are prosperous. You are well off. You have something. But if you want to be perfect, you have to leave everything behind. That means you need to lose yourself. Then come and join me, with me. That's what he said. Again, what a fantastic saying. But that is the truth. Who's going to follow this lesson? I know that everybody wants to achieve their salvation. You know, you want to achieve your salvation. You always talk about that. You always dream about that. I want to achieve my salvation. Somehow I will achieve my salvation. You all do these things. But are you willing to do that? Are you ready to do that? Are you willing to lose yourself to find yourself? If you can lose yourself, we will show yourself. Actually, you don't need me. You don't need me to show yourself if you can lose yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, what I do is I help you to lose yourself. Then you will find yourself. I don't have to show yourself. You will see that. It is covered with mud. Defilements. The mind is defiled. It is covered with defilements. Therefore, we are going to help you to clean your mind. That means we are going to eradicate the process of defilements. When we eradicate the process of defilement, I use the word process of defilement. Don't worry about that. Because it's a process. It's a process. We can remove that. Remove means we can cease the process. Everything is a process in this world. Everything. Therefore, we are so lucky. Therefore, Nibbana exists. Therefore, salvation exists. Otherwise, if these things are not processes, nothing can be done. If something is a process, we can cease it. Therefore, defilements are a process, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, defilements are created, or the mind is defiled due to that process. The Buddha found that. The Buddha taught us. We have the method, then we are going to practice that. When we practice, then we can remove, I can't use remove, actually we can cease the process of defilements, then the mind exists, then the mind can experience itself, then you will experience your mind, you will experience world, you will experience the world, you will experience the universe, you will experience the truth. You will experience the present. But to do so, we should be able to lose ourselves. Be ready to lose yourself. Losing yourself is not forgetting about yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Then you just need to get hit by a baton. Then you will forget everything. By doing that, you can't lose yourself because your new life will be remembered. And you will have a new life because defilements are there. Therefore, that defilements create the ego from that day. Let's assume that now someone has knocked you down, and from today, in this minute, 3 o'clock, just 3 o'clock, from this time, you forget everything. But the problem is, you forgot your past. But from now, you will remember, and from now, the process of the mind activates, and the process of the defilements also activate. Both processes will be activated. Then you will remember from now. And you will feel yourself. Self means the ego again. Then you will create your life, which means the life you have been created so far, you will create another life. Perhaps I will give you a new name. Before you were John, and I will give you James. From now, you are James, and you will create your life. You will create your life, and the ego is created, and the ego will have wantings, desires, and it will have its dreams. Then it will be vexed, and it will try to achieve its goals and dreams, because it needs to come out of vexation. And the life that you had will be repeated. Therefore, death is not the solution, ladies and gentlemen. Dementia is not the solution. But somehow we need to find a solution. To find the solution, you should have the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Can you understand the problem? Don't you think that this is a problem? But the problem is, the society let us know that this is normal. You are vexed, and they let us believe that it's normal. Go to your friend and say that, I want to see things, I don't know why. Ask them, then they say, what? That's normal. They will definitely say that that's normal. Yeah, it's normal for them, but for noble people, it's not normal. Why do you want to see? What is the purpose of seeing? Oh, look at this. You saw it. What happened? Nothing. Then why did you see? There is a beautiful statue over there. It's so nice. And what will you achieve by seeing that? But you will see it. You will see it, then, oh, this is so beautiful. That's it. You will pay for that. You will pay for movies. You will pay for visiting some places, etc. You pay a lot. Not only in this country. You will go to another country. You will travel. You will travel to see something. But it's okay. I'm not asking you not to travel. But why? But if you ask this from the society, then definitely they will say that this is normal. That's what we should do. We should live our life before we die. This is the life that God gave us. Therefore, we need to live. We need to live. Live means we need to travel. We need to see. We need to observe. We need to enjoy our life. We need to sing songs. We need to dance. That is the normal life. That's how they believe. That's how the society let them believe. That's how the society let us believe. Let us believe in our childhood, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we wanted to perceive the world. We thought that perceiving the world is life. We were misguided. We were deceived. But nobody was there to help us, because everybody was deceived. Everybody was deceived. Everybody was working hard just to see things. See and say, oh, it's beautiful, oh, it's ugly, that's it. A comment, that's it. One comment, that's it. By seeing something, what happened to you? You just made a comment. You said that, oh, it's so nice. Oh, it's so ugly. Apart from that, you haven't done anything. But you wasted your money. Then, time is money. Then you wasted your time. But time is an illusion. Therefore, you wasted your life. You wasted your life to travel. You use a month to travel. You saw many places. You visited so many places, and you saw them, and you thought that you achieved something. Perhaps you have a dream to travel to another country. to experience that. There are many people, they have a dream to travel to certain countries. But if you also have that, let's work out about it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about it, and let's do something useful before you lose your life. Luckily, this is still a dream. But if you have fulfilled few dreams, then you lost your life for that. But if you have dreams right now, you have many dreams perhaps, but you haven't achieved them, so you are so lucky because you can save your life that you are going to waste to fulfill those dreams. When I say waste, perhaps it can be offensive when I say waste, but which word should I use? Because it's a waste. It's a waste. Again, it's a waste. We do these things because our mind is vexed. That's the only reason, ladies and gentlemen. Our mind is vexed. If we can stop the process of vexation, you won't do anything. I'm pretty sure about that. Because right now you can understand this. You always do something that you like. What do you think? You always do something that you like, but sometimes you do something that you don't like to do something that you like. Yeah, you go to work. I think you don't like to go to work. Monday morning is the worst time in your life, and Saturday evening is the greatest time ever. Therefore, actually you hate your job, and you perhaps I would say, someone says, no, I love my job. Okay. Perhaps you hate your job, but you have to go to your job because you have many things that you like to do, but you need money to do that. To earn money, you need to do a job. But you always want to do something you like. That means when you like something, a wanting is created. Like means that is the attachment, ladies and gentlemen. When the mind gets attached to something, then the mind is vexed. Then the mind wants to associate that. The mind wants to perceive it. Because the mind is so destitute. Without these organs, eyes, ears, the mind can't perceive anything. Because the mind can't see, the mind can't hear, the mind can't smell. Mind is an effect. Something should happen first. Eyes and sight should come together. Then only can the mind be created. Therefore, the mind is so destitute. But if it is only the mind, it doesn't matter. But if it is the ego, now it has expectations. The mind doesn't have any expectation. The mind is created just after those causes come together. This is the process of the mind. Therefore, the mind doesn't have any expectation. But the ego has. The ego has expectations, but the problem is the mind has to experience it. Ego can't experience anything, ladies and gentlemen. The mind has to experience this. Because eyes and sight come together. The mind is created. When it comes together, the mind is created, not the ego is created. Not the ego. Ego created just after that, because of the defilements. But now the ego wants something. Therefore the ego wants to perceive things. But the problem is, when the mind becomes the ego, it is so destitute because it can't see anything until those causes come together. Can you imagine that? It's like something happened outside your home, but you are on the bed paralyzed. You can hear, but you want to see, but you can't walk. You want to see that, but you can't walk. You should feel so destitute at that time. This is how the mind feels when it is ignorant. That's why you are so active, ladies and gentlemen. You are so active, and you need to earn. How much? How much? Can you give me an amount? No, you can't. Because you know that you will have many desires. When you have desires, you will be vexed, you know that. Therefore, you need an assurance. Therefore, you will earn until your last breath. Why don't we find a solution for this, ladies and gentlemen? Why do you think that this is secondary and primary is the other life? But what I feel is this should be your primary goal, ladies and gentlemen. This should be a primary goal, because if you can't understand this, or if you don't understand about yourself and those everything what we have discussed so far, then you will be like a beast of burden. You will work hard. Therefore, actually, I want you to make this journey your primary goal. Because if you can achieve this goal means actually if you can understand, just you need to understand, ladies and gentlemen. This is only about understanding. You don't have to do any other thing. You just need to understand. That's why this is so easy. But ego is the problem. Ego listens to the Dhamma. Ego tries to do something. That's the only problem. Otherwise, you will understand it right now. If you are an arahant, you can understand what I'm saying right now. And you will be enlightened second time. If you are an arahant, because the mind exists, the mind is so pure, the mind can understand this, then mind will do what I ask. But the ego doesn't want to do that, because ego thinks that it has a life and it has been building a life. It doesn't want to lose that life, but it wants to go to heaven. It wants to achieve his salvation, and he says perhaps I don't know what type of salvation it has. But it thinks about the salvation, ladies and gentlemen. Before you came to the monastery, or at the first time, before you came to sermon, before you listened to a sermon, perhaps you wanted to achieve your salvation. You wanted to achieve your salvation, but what type of salvation was that? You wanted to go to heaven. What type of heaven you were talking about at that time? And the other thing is, you should know that everybody wants to go to heaven, but no one is ready to go to heaven. To go to heaven, you know that you need to lose your life. Life means you need to lose what you have. Can you take your children to heaven? If you want to go to heaven, if you are ready, then let's go. But you need to leave everything behind. Because now you have things that belong to this world. You have to leave everything. Are you ready to leave everything? Are you ready to leave your house? Are you ready to leave your body? That means, are you ready to die? You should be willing to die, to go to heaven. If you love this body, you can't. When you go to heaven, you will get a new body. Perhaps it will be beautiful, we don't know that. Perhaps it will be beautiful or lighter or powerful, I don't know. But, however, you have to lose this life. Lose this life and lose this body, lose everything what you have, all the possessions you have. All the possessions you have acquired so far. You have to leave them. Therefore, if you at least, I'm not talking about Nibbana, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about going to heaven. If you want to go to heaven, you need to leave everything behind. If you are ready, you will be a god. Otherwise, you will become a human being or less than that. That's the truth. I met someone. When I was in abroad, I met someone. She came from a well-off background, and they have a huge business in that country. She was Hindu, and she told me that, I'm not worried about anything. When I die, I will go to heaven. I will go to heaven. She strongly believed that. Therefore, she rejected. Or she refused to listen to the Dhamma, because she said that she found the salvation. She found the salvation. I think she was waiting at that time. She was waiting to go to heaven. I didn't say that we have another method to go to heaven. You know, the elephant thingy. But I didn't tell her that, because I didn't want to hurt her. I wanted to help her. But I said that, yes, for sure you will go to heaven. But can I ask a question? If I ask you to go from this place, if I ask you to leave, where will you go? Then she said that, I will definitely go to my children. I love them so much. Then I asked her that, what's the difference? When you die, where will you go? To heaven? Why? Are your children in heaven? If they are in heaven, then she will go to heaven, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, they will go to the same place where they live. It will happen to you. Therefore, going to heaven is a dream for most people. Jesus Christ said, how can you go to heaven? Leave everything behind. Or lose yourself. At least lose this self, that means earthly self, to become a god. But no one is ready. To lose that, you need a huge courage. To step forward, you need a huge courage. But I want you to do that. Perhaps when I say this, you think twice. I can leave everything, but what will happen to my future? That means you are still thinking about your future. What I mean is, if you have enough money to live, just to live, to find, to have 4 basic requisites, you would better start your journey right now. Otherwise, you won't have enough time to achieve this, at least to go to heaven. But we are not preaching here to go to heaven, ladies and gentlemen, but at least to go to heaven. To go to heaven, you need only a 1% of what you need to go to, or what you need to achieve your salvation. If you don't have that 1%, that means you need to leave, you need to lose your earthly self. But you can have your ego, which means you can have yourself, but you are going to lose earthly self. But you know how hard is that? How hard you to leave your house, how hard, especially not house actually, not your properties, especially your children. If you are a mother, oh, you are so lucky because you are a mother, but you are so, I can't say that. As a mother, you know that how hard it is. It's so hard. It's so hard to leave your children behind and go. But you know that every day mothers die. They don't want to leave their children. They want to see them. That is the most beautiful thing, the most beautiful face. Your child's face, you want to see him, you want to see her. It's really difficult for you to leave them. That's why we need to do something, ladies and gentlemen. We need to understand that. I want you to be practical. Here, we discuss practical things. We discuss about our life, what's going on with us. We need answers for these problems. These are the real problems. Problems are not in the Tripitaka. If you read Tripitaka, you will know some facts. You can identify your problems. You need to identify your problems. Now we saw a problem. Now you can't leave your children behind. You need them. You need to see them. Then if you need to see them, if you need to associate them, and if you die, where will you go? That's so logical. Otherwise, you should disappear. But it never happened. The process of the mind occurs. You can't stop that. Stopping the process of the mind is called parinibbana. Then you should be able to pass into parinibbana, to stop the process of the mind. But before that, you need to become an arahant. That means you need to stop, or you need to cease the process of defilements. That is the method. Therefore, after this life, you will have another life, but in that life, you need your children again. Then you will go to them. It's really difficult for people to go to heaven, ladies and gentlemen. At least to heaven. Think about that. Let's try. Let's try, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps you have spent half of your life or more than half. Let's try. Perhaps it will take another 50 years you to leave your children behind. It is so hard. You all know that it's so hard. But if something is so hard, we should practice more. We should put our time more. If you really think about that. Otherwise, if you want your ego to achieve its salvation, of course, you can come to the monastery, you can listen to the Dhamma, you can be an anagarika, Sila Shravika, a monk, anagarika, Sila Shravaka, you can be and you can stay with them, you can listen to the Dhamma. but you won't practice. Becoming an Arangarika is not the victory. That's the beginning. Am I correct? That's the beginning. Becoming a monk, I know that, because I'm a monk. That is the first step. Oh, I would say second step. I will give you a chance. This is the second step. This is not the salvation. This is not the salvation. This is not the Nibbana. This is not Nibbana, ladies and gentlemen. We need to practice. We need to practice. Otherwise, the ego can be a monk. Now, ego can think that I'm a monk. Don't worry about that. I'm a monk. Especially when you come to the monastery, perhaps you like to listen to sermons and you go back and you spend your life and you come again to the sermon and you listen to sermon, then you can say, you means the ego can say that, don't worry, we listen to sermons, we will achieve our salvation. We are not like you. We are superior than you because we achieve our salvation. We go to monastery, we listen to the Dhamma. This is the real Dhamma. Your Dhamma is not real. This is the real Dhamma. Your religion is wrong. I mean, this is the real religion. This is how the ego works. And the ego can be satisfied by thinking that we got the Dhamma, we got a guru, we got a teacher. Yes, you can get everything, but you need to practice. You yourself must try. That's why I told you, you had to fight against yourself, against the ego. Enemy is within you. If the enemy is within you, how can you fight, ladies and gentlemen? That will be the hardest battle. Hardest battle, I'm telling you. Because the enemy is within you. That enemy never let you do anything. Then enemy will make you lazy. And that enemy will make you associate ignoble people, immoral people. But they are rich in something. Then you can be superior when you associate them. Because the ego wants to be superior. Therefore the ego will associate an ignoble person, an immoral person, but he is infamous. Doesn't matter. He is infamous. When you associate him, you can say that, oh, that prisoner, he killed 10 people on the spot. I know him. You can say that. You know him. But not in front of good people, moral people. In front of ignoble people or immoral people, you can say that. Then you can be superior to them. This ego is so cunning and so silly. But it doesn't matter. If the ego is silly, that's its thing. But the mind is suffering. Ego never suffers, ladies and gentlemen. Ego never suffers. Only the mind is suffering. Because only the mind exists. Ego is a disease. It's like you have a wound on your arm. What is suffering? Arm or the wound? What is suffering? When you have a wound on your arm, what is suffering, ladies and gentlemen? Wound? Or the arm? The arm is suffering. That's the problem. There is a wound on the mind. That is the ego. Ego is not suffering. Ego has wantings, but the mind is vexed. Ego is ready to take all the views, but the mind is vexed. Ego has desires. Ego wants to achieve things. Ego wants to be superior. Ego doesn't like being inferior. Therefore, the mind has to do something. The mind has to sacrifice itself. Therefore, I want you to think about this. This is so dangerous. This is not only a sermon, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, we are talking about something big that happened to you, that is in you. The greatest enemy within you. We are talking about that. Then if you don't focus on that, then you will lose the battle. Everyone loses the battle, finally. Everyone means everyone who haven't understood the Dhamma. They lose, they will lose, and they lost. They lost the battle. Everyone lost the battle, so far. Your grandparents, I'm sorry to say, perhaps they were so rich and well educated, but they died, but you don't know what happened to them. Perhaps your husbands, wives, perhaps your children, neighbors, relatives, beloved one. They died. You cried. You are here. They are not anymore. What have you done for them? Perhaps your grandfather gave you your house that you own right now. Your the grandfather's property, but you own it now. And you should have a gratitude, I know. But how can you pay your gratitude? How can you show your gratitude? How can you do something to that person? Perhaps you can name your house by his name. This is my grandfather's house, Gregory. But you know that is useless. You can be happy, and you can show others that you are a good person. You have gratitude. Therefore, you named the house after grandfather. You can show all these things. What happened to grandfather? Nobody knows. That will happen to you. People will cry in front of your coffin. I'm sorry to say these things, but this is the truth. I want you to awaken yourself. You can do this. That happened to me. That's why I became a monk. I saw all these things. I saw what happened to people, ladies and gentlemen. I saw how they lose and how they lost. I don't want that happen to me. That's why I wanted to achieve my salvation. If the salvation exists, if the Nibbana exists, if you know that, then this must be it. This is the chance. That's why I want you to do this. That's why I want you to take the challenge. The biggest challenge ever. If you can take this challenge and if you can win this battle, then this will be the last battle and you won't have to do any other battle. But right now, how many battles you do right now? Just think about that. How many battles? With your boss, with your wife, with your husband, with your children, with your neighbor. How many battles? With your health? That is the greatest battle, perhaps. With your health, with your age. But you know that you will lose all the battles. Can you win the battle with age? Can you stop aging? No. You will fail. You will lose that battle. And what about the death? Death? You will fail that. You will lose it. You will lose that battle. Perhaps with your husband, you will lose it. If he finds another woman. How can you stop? You can go to court, That's it. But you can't get his love. You will lose the battle again. Or perhaps you have to plead. Oh, please love me, please, please, please. But if you think that, but this is life, I don't want this life. I want you to think about this. The society says a different thing. I don't believe in society. I believed it and I was deceived. Therefore, I don't want to believe it anymore. I believe only the Buddha. Buddha means the enlightened one. Whoever is enlightened, I believe him. I believe in him and I believe him. If someone is vexed, I know that he will teach me, he will guide me to vexation. That's what happened to you, that's what happened to me. Therefore I know that, and you also know that. Perhaps you don't want to say that. When someone has lustful feelings and it wants other person to be lustful, don't you agree with me? That's what happened in the society. When someone is angry, he says something, he does something to make other person angry. Whatever you have, you can give. You spread. When someone says, I love you, then you should know that that person is lustful. Therefore, that person wants to come out of that vexation. That's the truth. But it's so bitter because love is sacred. Love is sacred. That's how people believe. But if you talk against that, perhaps we'll be cast away. But that's the truth. If someone says, I love you, then you should think twice. Perhaps at least you can ask why. Have you asked that question? But you know that, no, it's normal. When someone asks, when someone says, that, I love you, then you thought that it's normal. That's how the society is. But it's not the society is. At least you should. If I ask you, can I give you a bomb? Then don't you at least ask, for what? I'm not a terrorist, I'm not a military personnel, then why should you give me this? At least you should ask that. But when someone says, I love you, then perhaps you said no, perhaps you said yes. But before you say that, at least you should ask why. Then he will run away. Because he can't say his true feeling. That's the truth. You all experience this, but you don't want to say that. Therefore, young people, teenagers, they have been deceived. At least their parents never talk about that. They have been deceived. Therefore, when someone comes to them and say the same thing, then they will accept. Then finally they will commit suicide. Because that person is vexed and that person wants to come out of vexation. Therefore, that person makes the other person's mind vexed, then that mind is also vexed. Now it needs to come out of that. Therefore, they can help each other. That's what they do. That is the truth in the society. That's why people get married. That's the truth. We should understand that. At least now you are not going to marry. At least now let's understand it. That's the truth. But you are frightened to express this to your children. Perhaps. Because that's not the society says. You are so afraid of the society. Therefore, everybody wants to follow the society, jump on the bandwagon. Whatever they do, you accept it and you do it. That's why the salvation is too far. If we all talk about the truth, then no one will be deceived, especially our children. They won't be deceived. There are many children who live with us. They won't be deceived because they know the truth. They never hate, they love. But the real love, unconditional love. Unconditional love. They study. They learn languages. They practice the path. They listen to sermons. They try to achieve their salvation. They try to pass this message to others. They try to be the message before that. By looking at them, people will understand the truth. Therefore, they want to become the message. Therefore, they practice day in and day out. Because of love. That is unconditional. They don't expect anything. We don't expect anything. That's the love we got from the Buddha. The Buddha didn't expect anything from me. He didn't ask even a penny from me. Anything. But he loved me so much. He passed the message to the noble lineage. Then it will come to me. And it came to me. This is the love. It doesn't involve lustful feelings. Not any feelings. Only caring. That's what we need to practice. Otherwise, if you associate people who are vexed, and they will make you vex, make you be vexed. We need to identify the society. We need to identify the society, we need to identify our association after that. You can associate anyone, but don't take views from anyone, ladies and gentlemen. I can advise you. These are advice. This is advice, and you can take it. But be very careful, because this is your life. If you can practice this, you will win. I would say something that works, but only if you practice. It's hard. But the ego doesn't want to do that. Ego wants to listen to sermons. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm not talking about you. The ego. Ego wants to listen to sermons, but it doesn't want to practice, because if it practices, what will happen? It will lose itself. The mind is never lazy, but the ego is lazy. The mind is not arrogant, but the ego is. Therefore, the mind wants to practice, but the ego doesn't. If you just listen to this and won't practice, remember, you are not the mind. You are the ego. Ego doesn't want to kill itself. The ego doesn't want to commit suicide by practicing the Lord Buddha's path. Ego doesn't like the Buddha. Ego doesn't like the path. Ego doesn't like the Dhamma. Ego likes parties. Ego likes songs. Ego likes movies. Ignoble and immoral association. Ego likes them. Therefore, I want you to be very careful. Let's practice this. Let's put into our life. I want you to do that. I want you to experience. I want you to experience this. If you practice, only you can experience. That's the only way. Because these things are words. You should experience this. This should be an internal experience. It's so simple. Just understand this. Be vigilant. Understand about your thoughts. Be vigilant about your thoughts. Then you will see. If you can stop association of ignoble people, that will be good. If you can stop getting all the views from them, that will be good. At least if you understand the Dhamma, if you can stop getting views from others, but it's so difficult. You know that it's so difficult because you need to associate them. When you associate them, you will get views. The ego wants to be superior, therefore the ego will get it. I will show you how the ego works, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, the ego must be created. To ego to be created, ignorance is the first thing. Due to ignorance, attachment is created. Then vexation is created. Then abhisankara is created. That means the mind tries to come out of vexation. The mind tries to come out of vexation. It does something. That is abhisankara. After that, according to the Buddha, jati is created. We call jati. Or we can say the ego. The ego is created. When the ego is created, the ego has its own wantings. Then wanting happens. Right here. Can you see if I write here? Then wanting happens. Just W. Wanting occurs. Because the ego is there now. Ego means actually the ignorance and attachment. Again, due to ignorance and attachment, the ego is created. Now the ego exists. Therefore the ego has its own wantings. Or before that, I would say, it gets wrong views. That means, again, ignorance involves. It gets wrong views because it's open to that. Because it wants to be superior. If it wants to be superior, it wants to gather knowledge. To gather knowledge, it's open. Anyone can give any view. You have experienced all these things. People talk about beauty. People talk about food. You have seen this and you have experienced these things. Perhaps today morning you got another view about the food. And you will make it definitely. If you want to understand that, you will make it definitely. And you will take one whole day to make that food. Haven't you done that before? I know that it's shameful now, but before, it was your life. It was my life. Perhaps you spent a day to make a dessert. Can you imagine that? You had to do that. And you were so happy in the evening. Your family members came home and you offer them and you were so happy and you said, I have created this, look, this is so scrumptious, delicious, and you use all the words, and they ate it. They ate it and you were so happy. You were so happy by losing a day of your life. A day. But that was the life. That's how we were being taught, and therefore that's fine. That's fine. We didn't have any worry about that. We wasted our life, but everybody wasted it. Everybody wasted it. Right now, therefore it's okay. It happened due to ignorance. Because the ego always believes the world is pleasurable. Because it wants to believe that. Because if the world is pleasurable, then it can achieve many pleasurable things and be superior. If you have many pleasurable things, if you believe that this pen is pleasurable, then if you have this pen, you are superior than me because I don't have this. If this is cancer, but you know it's dangerous and nobody wants it, and it is vexatious, nobody wants it. Therefore, if some, I'm not saying, but this is only for the Dhamma, if someone has it, then he or she can't be superior in that case. Therefore, the ego wants cancer to be eradicated. But pleasurable things, that's the thing. Then, the ego believes that everything is pleasurable. Everything is pleasurable. The world is pleasurable. Therefore, the ego wants to experience those pleasurable things. Because of that view, it's completely wrong. Nothing is pleasurable in this world and nothing is vexatious. Everything is so neutral. What about this? Is this pleasurable or neutral? This is neutral, ladies and gentlemen. This is neutral. Pleasure is created in your mind and vexation is created in your mind. There is a process. This is nothing to do with this. But the mind means that the ego doesn't want to believe it. The ego thinks that everything is pleasurable. That's how you feel. Everything is pleasurable. You expect to experience pleasure. What do you think? That's your expectation. Your only expectation is to experience pleasure. Because you deeply believe that the world is pleasurable. That's why you always accept all the views. When someone says, you are so beautiful, you didn't ask why. Why didn't you ask that? When someone said that you are so beautiful, why didn't you ask that why? You don't want to, because you just accepted it. Because you know that you are so beautiful. You knew that. When people talk about beauty, yes, you accepted it. When people talk about delicious things, yes, you accepted it because you knew that. Everything is delicious. At least we can create everything delicious. That's how you believe. Therefore, you accepted it. This is how the ego works. Now the ego is created. Now it wants to be superior. Therefore, it wants to discriminate the world. At least to pleasure and vexation, pleasure and vexation, or pleasure or beauty and ugly. If you love the world, why do you use the word ugly? If everybody wants to be beautiful, then why do we have a word called ugly? We should eradicate that. We should erase that from the dictionary, vocabularies. Why do you use them? Because the ego wants to discriminate the world. Because it wants to be superior. It feels that it's an entity. The ego feels that it's an entity, and it believes that everything is an entity. Therefore, it has opponents. This is me, and others are opponents. I and others. I and others. When the ego is created, it wants to be superior. Therefore, to it to be superior, everybody should be inferior. That's why perhaps you have heard everybody wants to rule the world. Why? Rule the world means everybody wants to be superior, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody wants to be superior. That's why the ego discriminates the world, and that's how it believes that the world is pleasurable. Now if the world is pleasurable, it can take all the views. It's ready to take all the views. If you want, when you go home, speak to your child. Tell him or her that, Puta, I saw, or I ate a delicious something. You can say. Then he believes it. Definitely he believes it, because we believed it. We didn't question, because we knew that the world is pleasurable. But we don't experience pleasure, but the world is pleasurable. That's the problem. But I have a question for you. If the world is pleasurable, why do you create pleasure? If this is pleasurable, then when I use it, I should feel pleasure. And why do we have to go on a picnic to feel pleasure? If carrot is pleasurable, why do we have to cook? Why do you have to put some extra things? We believe that the world is pleasurable, but we experience that it's not pleasurable. And it's not vexatious either. It's neutral. But this doesn't want to believe that. If this is, please try to understand this. If these two pens are the same, then how can I have one and be superior than you? If my sole purpose is to be superior than you, then I should discriminate this, and I should put a price tag on this. At least something, a brand. I had to create something. Or at least I had to say that black is the greatest. That's how you have a favorite color. Don't you have a favorite color? Then ask why. You can say, I love green. Then I had to ask, why do you hate black? What happened to you? What it has done to you? But you don't have an answer for this. But you love this. When you love this, you want to associate this, then you try to make a brand. You want green color to be the greatest color in the world. Then you can be superior to everyone. You means, again, I'm not talking about you. The ego. Without discrimination, the ego can't exist. The ego can't be maintained. Therefore, the ego always wants to discriminate the world, differentiate the world, separate the world, and make wars, make fights, and they fight each other, they kill each other, they destroy each other due to the ego. Then, still can't you see that this is the most dangerous thing in the world? Then why do you pet this? Why do you have this in your heart? Why do you keep it and feed it? Why don't you fight against this? Why doesn't everyone fight against this? Because everyone is possessed by this. This is the king. This is the God. Not God. This is God. This is, I would say, the God. Then, what is real love then? If you love someone, what should you do? You should help him to eradicate the ego, ladies and gentlemen. That's the love you should express. Because you know that the enemy is within that person and it kills him. It destroys him. That's the love from the Buddha. That's called noble love. That's called noble loving kindness. May you have many children. May you have many cars. May you be the king of the world. This is not the loving kindness the Buddha asks us to spread. Because the Buddha identified the enemy. This is the enemy. This is the problem. You don't have many problems, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps you have to pay the rent. That's another story. You don't have many problems. You have only a problem. That is the problem. The Buddha found that, and Buddha gave us the answer. And if we are not ready to get the answer, and if we are not ready to practice the path, then achieve our salvation. Whose fault is that? The ego, let's go back to this again. The ego wants to discriminate the world, therefore it has separated it. It has separated it. It has created brands, titles to be superior. Perhaps you want to achieve a title. Perhaps. Why? Ask that question. Why someone wants to be powerful? You know, again, I don't want to insult anyone, but I would say this. Some people want to be ministers. To be a minister, they have to spend a lot of money. But their salary is not enough for that. Their payback time is 1.5 million years. That payback time, that means they have spent perhaps 100 million, but their salary is 100,000. Then if you can calculate the payback time, then they had to be in that position for 1.5 million years. But somehow they manage. How and why? Why do they want to be? You know that. This is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. This is the problem. Not only that, I'm not talking about politics, but also everything. Because of this. Therefore, now the ego wants to separate the world. Ego wants to create titles, levels, and the ego wants to experience pleasure. Therefore, the ego strongly believes that the world is pleasurable. Therefore, it's ready to take all the views. When a view comes into the mind accepts it because the mind is possessed by the ego. Therefore, the ego accepts it. Then the mind is vexed. Due to ignorance? Ignorance means wrong views, again. And wrong views are accepted because it believes that the world is pleasurable. Without questioning, it accepts it. if they talk about beauty. When someone says you are so beautiful, you accept it. But if someone says you are so ugly, you question, how dare you say that? The other way around as well. It's fair. Actually, do you really think that you are so beautiful? Yes, you are beautiful. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. But I'm asking, do you really think that you are so beautiful? Then why do you accept that so quickly? And when someone says so you are so ugly, why do you reject it? Why can't you think about that? Perhaps I might be, not can or may, just put might. I might be ugly. I should listen to him. But you don't do that. You just ask, how dare you say that? That means you strongly believe that you are so beautiful. You strongly believe, and you put your facial, that means your makeups. How do you say that? It's, makeup. You strongly believe that you are so beautiful, but you make up your face, or face you up. Make up your face, Make up your face. You strongly believe that you are so beautiful, and you make up your face, and you spend a lot of money. Then you should understand that. You should understand that the mind is deceived, Researcher. We need to come out of this. We need to do something. We need to do something. However, because of that belief, the mind accepts it. Then the mind is vexed. When the mind is vexed, now it has to come out of vexation. Therefore, it has to do something. Then when it does something, vexation decreases. It has, let's say, 10 units. Now vexation, after this, vexation decreases up to 5 units, or less than that, 2 units. Now 8 units decrease. Therefore, the mind feels relaxation. The mind is relieved. That is called pleasure. Then it comes to pleasure. When it comes to pleasure, again, the ego is so happy because it experiences pleasure. Then the ignorance deepened. That's why you can't lose that idea. When we say that this world is not pleasurable, perhaps you can't accept that. You think about it. It's not pleasurable. Then what? I can save my neck by saying that it's neutral, then you will be okay. But if I say it's vexatious, perhaps you won't believe it. Actually, it's neutral. This is vexation. Vexation is created in the mind. Pleasure is felt in the mind. I can't say that it is created, because pleasure is, when the vexation decreases, the mind feels pleasure. That's not the part of that. The mind can't perceive pleasure. The mind can perceive vexation. Here 10 units, here 2 units, therefore it decreases. Now the mind feels pleasure. Therefore, you can't achieve pleasure, or you can't experience pleasure without vexation. You all know that. Now here you can see, first of all, the ego must be created. Then the ego has its own wantings and vexation, and it comes to pleasure. This happens over and over again. This is called samsara. This happened due to vipaka. I didn't write that part. In the future we will talk about that. This is samsara. This happens over and over again. If you don't aware of this, if you don't be aware of this, then this happens over and over again, and it will destroy your life. So it will destroy your happiness. You deserve to be happy, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you? You deserve to be happy. But don't be deceived with pleasure. You will feel this, but this is only a flash in the pan. It disappears very quickly. Because it happens due to this. Vexation, a reduction of vexation, is felt as pleasure. When you sing a song, you feel this. When you dance, you feel this. When you achieve something, you feel it. When you achieve something, just imagine that. You have been working so hard for 5 years, and you achieved something, like your degree. When you got a degree, when you knew that you passed the exam and you got those, whatever the grades and results, whatever, then you were so happy at that time. Then you thought that it's happiness, but it's not. That's the pleasure. That's pleasure, and you felt it, and after that you had to do the other one. Once you got your degree, perhaps you had to get married, or you had to do your masters. Then when you want to do a master, when you do a master's degree, then what happened? Then again the mind is vexed. But that's fine. The ego believes that when you have a master's degree, you can be superior to a lot of people. Therefore, if you really want to feed your ego, do your PhD. Do your PhD. Doesn't matter. Perhaps 3 years. Just 3 years. If you can waste a day to make a dessert, why can't you waste 3 years to take your PhD? Take it. When you take your PhD, you will be superior to most people. I'm telling you. That's why some people want to do that. Not all the people. I would say my neck. Not all the people, but some. This thing is ready to go the extra mile, to feel superior. This thing is ready to kill anyone, perhaps own parents, to feel superior. To feel superior, someone wants to be the king, but the father is the king. Therefore, the ego has to kill the father and be the king. You have heard these things in history. This happened in history. That's how it is. The ego. But you can eradicate this. You can eradicate this by understanding the truth. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. You all know anicca, dukkha, anatta, but in the future we will talk about these things. But still I want you to be committed. Otherwise, what's the point in telling all these things? Anicca, dukkha, anatta, that is the greatest thing ever, greatest thing to discuss about those things. Then you should be committed. That doesn't mean that you need to come every day, but at least you should be committed. You should be committed. That means you should be a fanatic to achieve your salvation. That must be in your heart. In your last breath, if someone asks, what do you want to become? Then you should say that, I want to achieve my salvation. Nothing but salvation. Only the salvation, nothing but salvation. This must be in your mind, ladies and gentlemen. Then you don't have to do all these things. Then you are safe to go to the society. If you can become an arahant, actually you are safe to go to the society. You can go to the society, you can face the people and you can listen to them. But right now, I don't want you to go to the society because they will destroy you. They will give you many views, and next time when you come, then I can ask, how many dreams and goals do you have? 12. Okay, then you can say 12. Then next time when I ask, how many dreams and goals? I have achieved 2 and I have another 20. Then how can I treat you? Each time you go to the society, you get a new view. But it's wrong view, that's the problem. If when you go to the society, if someone says that everything is anicca, please go to the society, stay with them, associate them. If someone says everything is anicca, everything is dukkha, everything is anatta, that's also a view. That's the view we discuss here. That's the greatest view. It's primordial. It is primordial means it came from the beginning. It is the truth. It is not conventional. It's not conventional, ladies and gentlemen. But everything is conventional. Other things we were talking about here, those are conventionals. You are beautiful and someone is ugly, conventional. And this is 10 rupees and this is 15 rupees, conventional. All these things are conventional, but anicca, dukkha, anatta, that is fixed. That's the truth. Then if we know about that, and if we practice and if we try to experience that through our life, and in our life and in the universe, in nature, then we won't have this problem anymore. This is the only way we can see the process of jati. This is the only way we can see the process of the ego. When you understand anicca, ego doesn't like it. Understand that as well. The ego doesn't like anicca, ego doesn't like dukkha. That's why when we say everything is dukkha, what will you understand? Everything is dukkha. The Buddha said that. Everything is dukkha. Sabbampi dukkha. When Buddha said that, noble monks understood the truth. After that, it has been distorted. It has been distorted because the ego got to handle it. The ego got to handle the Dhamma. The ego wrote books. The ego interpreted it. Therefore, the ego added its own interpretations. Therefore, dukkha, sabbampi dukkha. Everything is dukkha. Everything is dukkha. Everything is, I can't say the English word. Everything is dukkha. I will say the English word after this. Everything is dukkha. When the Buddha said everything is dukkha, the ego understood that dukkha, oh yes, dukkha, dukkha. Because the ego knows two things, dukkha and sukha. That means happiness and vexation, no suffering. The ego knows two things. Why do you say that your life is like a roller coaster? Why do you say that? Sometimes you suffer, sometimes you are happy. You feel vexation and you feel happiness or pleasure. Then you can say that that's life. If your child comes to you and say that, mother, mommy, I feel vexation sometimes and I feel pleasure sometimes. Why? Then you would say, you would become a sage at that time when you will say that. that's the life. That's how we have been taught. Therefore we accept it. The ego accepts it. The ego knows two things, pleasure and suffering. Therefore, when the Buddha said dukkha, then the ego got the meaning of suffering. But the Buddha said dukkha means everything is dukkha, means everything is a compound. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is an entity. Everything is a compound. That's what the Buddha said. Perhaps you can't believe this. But everything is dukkha, everything is suffering. Then you believe it because you have heard that, that's familiar. You have used it and you have experienced it. But the Buddha didn't talk about suffering, ladies and gentlemen. And the Buddha told us, just right after he got enlightened, he understood everything. Before that, he didn't understand everything, or he didn't come across all these things. Just after the enlightenment, he came to know about these things. That's what he said. Pubbe anusutesu dhammesu chakkung udapadi. That's what he said. Here we are talking about suffering. That means King Siddhartha didn't know about suffering. What do you think? King Siddhartha and King Suddhodana, his father, he was suffering. He was so sad. Because someone said that his son will become a monk one day. He didn't want that to happen. He was suffering, he was vexed. He knew that. If his father knew it, then why King Siddhartha, he also knew that. But he didn't know that everything is a compound. Because when you see, when I write sodium, you feel that it's an entity. You feel that it's a unit, it's unique, and it's a unit. And it's different. It's separated. Because it's sodium. It has own characteristics. It's different. That's why you have a periodic table. In periodic table, you have different 108 elements. Different. But they are not different, ladies and gentlemen. They are the same because they all are made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons, which means subatomic particles. Next week we will talk about that. But when we come to know about this sodium, when you learnt this, what came to your mind? When your teacher taught you about sodium, what came to your mind? Completely separated and different, an entity. This is what came to your mind. But the teacher didn't say that. She said, this is sodium. What came to our mind was, it's an entity. Because the ego wants to experience entities. It believes in entities. That's its wisdom, which is wrong. But it doesn't know about that. Then how can you believe that everything is dukkha? When the Buddha said everything is dukkha, definitely people will say that, oh, everything is suffering. That's right, everything is suffering. Everybody can accept that because that the ego experiences it. And it has experienced it. Therefore it can believe it. But how can you believe that this is a compound? Or perhaps you can believe this one as compound, but this one, sodium? Everything is a compound in this world. You can't find any basic elements, ladies and gentlemen. There is no such thing called basic elements. You can't find any element in this world. Everything is a compound. These are not elements, but when you write your exam, then you need to write this one as element, that's fine because it's in chemistry. But in your real life, nothing is an element. Everything is a compound. Everything is a compound. This ignorance is a compound, ladies and gentlemen. If ignorance is not a compound, and if ignorance is fixed, then we don't have any salvation here. It is a compound. If something is a compound, it has a process. If it has a process, we can seize the process and we can free ourselves from that. That's why Nibbana exists. Therefore, when you understand anicca, you will realize that Nibbana exists. Until that, you will work with blind faith. That is the cure to this wound. The ego. When you practice anicca, when you practice dukkha, now you can see here, the ego, how do you feel the ego? That is, how do you feel yourself? Do you feel yourself as a compound or one whole thing? Do you feel your organs? When you walk, do you feel that, how do you feel? I am walking, or my heart is walking, my lungs are walking. Do you feel like that? No, you don't feel, I'm walking. This whole thing is, I am. This is I. One thing. Actually, if you feel this small sodium, this is not visible into naked eyes. If you feel sodium as an entity, why can't you feel this whole body as an entity? This whole body, this is an entity, this is an entity, this is an entity, and this is different to this is unique, this is unique. That's how we feel. Sodium is unique, hydrogen is unique, electron is unique. Everything is unique. That uniqueness is called anatta. Anatta and atta. Atta means unique. Anatta means nothing is unique in this world. You are not unique, you are not unique. You all both are same. The mind is not unique, ladies and gentlemen. It is the same consciousness. The mind is created right now. The mind is created. I can't say whose mind. I can't discriminate the mind. The mind is created. With this, everybody heard that. That means the minds were created. That's it. But you feel that I heard it. That means your mind suddenly became a human being. Otherwise, it's a sound. Look, I will help you. I will help, not you, I will help the mind to be created. Okay? 1, 2. Everybody heard that. That means, with the help of these bodies, the mind is created. Consciousness occurs. That's it. But you feel that I heard it. In your mind, you have that idea. I heard it. When you feel that I heard it, that means in that mind, the ego is created. The ego is created, and the ego separated the whole consciousness and took its part. That's how you feel that I heard it. Otherwise, you can't say anything, heard it. If I ask, what happened? You say, heard it. What happened? Heard it. No one can say, I heard it. Heard it. Heard it means a mind is created. But when you feel that I heard it, then you can say, I heard it louder, I heard it nicely. You couldn't hear it. I heard it nicely. That sound is mine. Perhaps you can say finally, that sound is mine. Didn't you feel superior when you can see something that others can't see? And some people can see ghosts, perhaps they can see or not, we don't know, but they say that they can see ghosts, and they see gods, and they say, can't you see? I can see it. Then they feel superior. That means the ego uses the mind to be superior, essentially. If someone can see something, that is consciousness. That is the mind. It doesn't belong to anyone. But this disease is the disease. If you really want to experience the life, I invite you to come and join us. Actually, I can make you come here by saying that it's fascinating, it's so beautiful. This feeling is fantastic. When I use these words, then the ego would say, you think that you are superior to me? Let me come every day. You know that the ignoble hate the noble. Why? The poor hate the rich. Why? If you want to check this, go to your friend and say that you really want to achieve your salvation. You really want to be righteous. You really want to be noble. Then you will hear something from them. At least they ask, are you mad? Or you go to your friend and say that you have decided to ordain. Then you will hear a lot of things. But don't hate them. Don't be angry with them. That is ego. Because you want to be righteous. You want to be noble. In that sense, you will be superior to them. The ego doesn't want to be superior, to be inferior in any sense, Sanjan. That's why this world is so ugly. Because of this ego. Otherwise, this world is the kingdom of heaven. Without ego. With ego, it's only a discrimination. Hate, hatred, and suffering, so forth. Therefore, if you can understand this, every day when we meet, I will remind this. I will talk about this. I don't hate the ego, ladies and gentlemen. Don't ever think that I hate the ego. I don't love. I don't love, that's it. Because I know, I have understood about this. To express my love, I want you to have the life. You deserve it. You are meritorious. And with this, I have a small request. To understand the Dhamma, you should be meritorious. Therefore, to earn merits as much as possible. Earn merits as much as possible. This is the only way you to understand this. Otherwise, you will listen to me, you will understand something else. Merits pave the path to Nibbana. We earn merits day in and day out. Therefore, Our path is so easy and so smooth. We preach to you. We treat you. We run the monastery. We welcome everyone, whoever they are. We welcome everyone. This belongs to everyone. Everyone. Gods can come, Brahmas can come, not only human beings, but not animals. Because they can't understand that. We love them, therefore we feed them, that's it. We can't preach to them, because they can't understand. If they can understand, we allow them. And we will start another monastery in Dehivala, in the zoo. We will do that. But we love human beings, we love gods, and whoever can understand the Dhamma. We earn merits through that. When we treat you nicely, we earn merits. When we allow you to come to the monastery and study the Dhamma and practice the path, and when we do teachers' meetings, when we use our time to make your life the life, we earn merits. We earn merits, therefore our path is so smooth. Therefore I want you to earn merits as much as possible. Especially with the sasana. Because with the sasana, you can earn great merits. It's greater. It's greater due to sasana. Because this is vitaragi, vitadosi, vitamohi. This sasana is the greatest. This I'm not saying that because I'm a monk. If some sasana is vitaragi, that means raga means desire. If something is, if some sasana is without desires and aversion and delusion, without them, that is the most pure thing in the world, the pure sasana in the world. Therefore, if you do something to sasana, you will get it back. When you do something to sasana, you help someone to achieve their salvation. That's what it happened. When you give, you will get. What you give, you will get. That's how it is. Therefore, when you do something to the sasana, then that means you help someone to achieve their salvation. We always help someone to achieve their salvation. We try to enlighten you. When we try to enlighten you, we will be enlightened. At least a path will be created, us to be enlightened. Therefore, engage with the monastery. Engage with these noble companionship. Engage with them. Then you will have many chances. Then tomorrow we have a great Buddha Puja. Then you can come and join. We need them. Otherwise, we never allow them to do that. Especially, the Buddha asks us to do two things. One is for the wisdom, the other one is the path. That means actually it's a separate path we should use. That's merits. That's called Karuna Sasana. The Buddha asks us to practice two things, Prajna Sasana and Karuna Sasana. That's why we do all these Buddha Puja and these meritorious activities. We do that. Therefore, we have Prajna Sasana. I want you to do that. Then you will have Prajna Sasana. Therefore, please be engaged with the monastery. I'm not asking you to offer anything, ladies and gentlemen. You offer, I know that, you offer, you do your level best. But I want you to be engaged with the monastery, these people. That's it. Then you will see many things. When you come to the monastery, you can offer a cup of water. That will be a huge merit. But when you are at home, you can't do that. Therefore, try to come to the monastery and make this your home. Because this belongs to you. This doesn't belong to me, ladies and gentlemen. Don't ever think that this belongs to me. No. This belongs to the Buddha and then his disciples. Buddha and his disciples. If you are a disciple, this is your home. He has lay disciples and monks. And this belongs to you. Therefore, use this place. Come to this place frequently. Come to this frequently and engage with these meritorious activities. Associate monks and anagarikas, Silasravakas. Then you can earn merits. That merits will lead you to your salvation. We are here. We will help you. We will help you. We are Noble Association. We will help each other. If we don't help each other, who will help us? Because we need to achieve our salvation. That means we need to experience the life, but the ego doesn't want. The world is full of ego. Therefore, they never help us to attain Nibbana. Therefore, we need to help each other. Therefore, we will help each other. Then we will definitely help you to achieve your salvation. We will see you next week. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gym be with you all. Thank you.